Hello everyone, Swezi here, back with another video. In this video, I want to talk about how you can answer this question in an interview. What are your weaknesses? Sometimes they may ask you to say, what is your biggest weakness? Sometimes they may ask it in a double-sided manner to say, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Now, about the strengths, about the strengths. That one, I think it's easy for you guys to answer. I think you already know it, but if you don't, let me just give you a quick tip to say, when you've been asked about the strengths, this is what you have to do. Go back to the job itself. Now, this is the preparation phase, right? Go back to the job vacancy, look at the duties that they wrote, and then in those ones, look at the things that you're really good at, and then you'll be able to say them on the day of the interview to say, I'm good at ABCD, making a reference to what they said, because they're not just asking for your strengths in general, they're asking in relation to the job itself. So the easiest way is to go back to the vacancy, look at what they wrote or what they're looking for, and look at the things that you're really good at, and then use those ones to explain about your strengths. That's it about the strengths. Now, strengths. Now, that's it about the strengths. Now, let me talk about the weaknesses, right? So, this one is a tricky one because this one can either work for you or you can kind of like put yourself on the spot and then shoot yourself in the foot. So, the thing is, you have to be careful in how you answer this question. Now, what I always advise when I'm doing interview preparation sessions with my clients, I always say one thing to say, if possible, don't say 2 or 3 or 5 weaknesses. Only mention one weakness, right? That's how you should go about it. But now, before we go about how you can answer this question, let's talk about why are they asking you this question in the first place. So, I'll give you 3 reasons why they may be asking you this question in an interview. Now, the first one, they want to evaluate your self-awareness. Are you aware of yourself in terms of your weaknesses or your strengths or just your abilities? That's what they're looking for, self-awareness. The second thing is they're looking for honesty. Are you honest enough to talk about your weaknesses? Because I mean, in general, as people, we do have weaknesses. So are you honest enough to talk about your weaknesses? And the third part, which is the most important part of this question, they want to know your improvement efforts. Now, what I mean by this is, now that you have a weakness, what are you doing to improve on that weakness? Have you just accepted it to say, you know what, this is my weakness, and then that's it? No. But what are you doing? Now, I'll give you an example of how you can be able to answer this question when you have been asked in an interview setup or session. Now, let me tell you a little bit of a story about myself. When I was asked this question 10 years ago in 2015 in September, they asked me this question in an interview. I was how old? Around 22, 23. They said, so Wezi, tell us about your weaknesses and your strengths, right? I think on the strength, I was able to do it. But on the weakness, this is what I answered. I said, thank you for asking me that question. My weakness is that I am not good at WhatsApp texting. Guys, that's what I answered. And I was being honest, to be honest. I'm still making improvements to be good at WhatsApp messaging. But I think that was my weakness that I said in the interview. And in God's providence, in God's grace, I was taken for that position. But then, even in the interview, they asked to say, you know what, some of our communication is done through WhatsApp. So, how are you working on improving on this? So, I had to explain what I'm trying to improve and everything. Now, if I'm asked that question, I don't think I'll talk about WhatsApp. I'm not yet good at WhatsApp messaging. I'd say I'm still making improvements, or I have been making improvements for the last 10 years. I'll try to get better. But anyway, we're not talking about WhatsApp messaging here. We're talking about what if they ask you that question. Now, I'll give you an example of how you can be able to answer this question. Now, as I said, if possible, always make sure that you use one example. Don't mention 5 or 6. No, just one is enough. One weakness. I mean, how can you talk about many weaknesses? I mean, you are trying to be employed. Why talk about many? Just talk about one. Now, in answering this question, the most important part, as I said, is the improvement effort that you are doing in your life or in to do with your career. Yeah, even in your life, right? So the thing is, when you answer, make sure that at the end of it, you say what you're doing. Now, I'll give you an example of how you can be able to answer this question. Now, there are many different ways of going about it, but this is a question, but this is the answer that I can give in an interview setup. Now, for example, they ask me, Wezi, tell us about your weakness. So this is what I can say. Thank you for asking me that question. one of my weaknesses that I've been able to notice is that I am a perfectionist and I'm very attentive to details. Now, you may be asking, why is this a weakness if and not a strength? I like to see this as a weakness mainly because whenever I've been given a task, I always make sure that this task is done to 100% perfection. But to be honest, sometimes this makes me delay a little bit in giving feedback, or sometimes I always maybe take a day, an extra day for me to finish. But then I always try to make sure that I give 100% of my work. But then I have been working on this. I've been working on understanding that there is room for improvement. There is also margin of error sometimes that I have to take. Nowadays, I'm working towards giving when it's around 95 to 100%. I always make sure that I give back the feedback to my managers. Now, that's it. I mean, you can add more words here and there, but I think you get the gist. Now, if you have seen what I've done in this answer, oh yeah, in this answer, I have talked of the weakness, which is being a perfectionist, right? Or being very attentive to details. Now, to some extent, that is a strength, but in this case, it is a weakness, right? But now, I have said it's something that I am working on, right? I have understood that it is a weakness. Sometimes I may delay a little bit because I'm trying to give perfect results to my manager. But then I have understood that no, in this life, sometimes you can give, let's say, 95% of work and it can still be good. Sometimes you can give 90%. Sometimes you can give even more than 100%. Cool. But then I've just told myself to say, you know what? I should allow for room for improvement. So now, if you have seen that answer, I've said what my weakness is, but also I've talked about my efforts, like what I've been trying to do to improve, right? So this is the way you can be able to answer this question. Always talk of the weakness, but at the end of it all, make sure you talk of what you are doing to improve. This is the most important part, right? Instead of just saying, this is my weakness, I've accepted it, it's my fate in life or my lot in life. No, talk about the weakness and then talk about what you are trying to do to improve. Now, there are different ways to explain your weaknesses. Now, of course, I wouldn't come here and say your weakness is perfectionism or being a perfectionist, or there are different variations of weaknesses in terms of careers or work. So you know yourself much better. Explain your weakness, but make sure you explain the improvement efforts that you're taking right after explaining the weakness itself. I hope you do find this video helpful. So if you do, you may want to like, subscribe, and share with your friend who is having interviews next week or tomorrow or the next day or next month or next year or in the next 5 years. Jokes, guys. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. I always appreciate your support on this video. But also, if you want me to do videos, more videos of how you can answer some other questions in an interview setup, just let me know. Write the questions down below, and then I'll be able to answer those questions in the next coming videos. Until next time, thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you guys. Peace. I want to say peace. Peace.